spite of themselves, see, in spite of themselves. That's what pride does. It's cruel in another fashion. If not as good as I am, then in the very nature of the case, I have the right and privileges that you have no right to because of pride, see. Listen, if your lot is worse than mine, then there is no use for me to do anything about it. That's only to be expected. Not only so, but if you have something that I want, I have every right to take it, especially if you happen to be weaker than I am. Listen, isn't that how World War I and World War II got going? Listen, you're weaker than I am, so I could just take what I want. There's another thing about pride. It makes for wretchedness in the life. It's only to be expected since it is cruel and selfish. Happy are the poor in spirit, Jesus said. Happy are the meek and merciful. Just as this is positive true, the opposite's also true. If the humble are happy, the proud are happy. Listen, there was a woman who was a darling of society, a story says. She was forever looking for slights, always looking out for someone who would shine brighter than herself. She didn't like that. She was proudful. There was a man who was worth several millions. He lost 1 million. 1 million. He had plenty left, absolutely more than he needed. So he went home and blew his brains out. His soreness was not in his purse, but in his pride. See? If you want something that's going to torture you, cultivate pride in your life. It'll torture you. The one who prides themselves in their pride may also be proud of their wretchedness also. There are two men here that are very different. First, in their character. The one is outward, very far apart. The Pharisee, in spite of his faults, in decent, respectable, clean living, he's paid his debts. He's a pillar of the community in the church. While, on the other hand, the other man is a renegade. For all intents and purposes, a traitor to his country, he is inferior to the Pharisee. One is respectable, the other one's an outcast. If there is any contrast of character, there is also a conflict in their prayers. The Pharisee, he says, I thank God that I'm not like the rest of those other men, thieves, rogues, immoral, even like yon tax collector. He says, I fast on all my income and I pay my tithes. You know what? That could be very true. As a matter of fact, probably an upstanding fellow. Listen, what's he seeking though? The answer is nothing. He simply stands in the presence of God and brags on himself. Now, I tell you what, there's another side of that too. You know, we can get into this thing, I'm nothing but a wretch, I'm nothing but a this, I don't deserve this, I don't deserve that. But I'm going to tell you what, I think a lot of times that's just a bunch of lip service, to be honest with you. You can get so tied up in your worthlessness, okay? It becomes an issue of pride in your life. It becomes an issue of pride. He's seeking nothing. You know, lift his head to heaven, but he smites on his breast in prayers. This human prayer, oh God, have mercy on me for my sins. Then the contrast of the results of their prayers. The Pharisee, you know nothing, having all but broken his arms, patting himself on the back. He leaves the service cold as an icicle, hard as a nail. It wasn't because God didn't love him, see? It was because the Pharisee was too proud to receive what God was eager to give him. He was self-sufficient. On the other hand, the publican went home in fellowship with God. Here's the thing, folks. Pride shuts the door on fellowship with God. It shuts the door. Now, whether you do it in a positive way or you do it backdoor, it doesn't matter. God hates it. It's an abomination unto him. We can think of ourselves better than everybody else, okay? And it's easy to do. Boy, I tell you what, since I was 12 years old, God cleaned up my act. Yeah, but I tell you what, there was a space of time that I didn't do too well. Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Here's the thing, folks. Listen, this pride keeps us from having a right relationship with God. How long shall you seek to feed our hungry friends when our cupboard is empty? We shall do it as long as we are proud and self-sufficient to go to the Lord for what we need. To go to the Lord for what we need. When we get to the end of ourselves, when in humility we turn to him who is alone who can save, we find salvation for our souls. You know, since we have some young people here that are going to camp, it's easy to get proudful and look down on other folks at camp. It's easy to do. There are folks that are going to be coming from all different aspects of life, okay? And, you know, we're proper Christians. We've been, you know, we know all the songs, okay? We know all the songs, and we even memorized some verses, okay? We've got that down pat. And then there's some other folks there that, you know what, they haven't been in church. You know, maybe they come from a broken home or something like that, if you understand my meaning. Listen, pride is looking down on somebody that's less fortunate like that, see? That's a very proudful look. Listen, when I was a youth pastor up in Pennsylvania for a number of years, and I could see these spiritual ones, you know. They have read a couple of verses together in the evening, and they think they're better than the rest. Oh, you don't want that. You don't want that. Listen, to be humble, to realize your circumstances and where you've come from. Where you've come from. It is only by the grace of God, if you've come from a Christian home, a loving Christian home, where the parents there love the Lord and they teach the principles of the Word of God. Understand that that pride keeps you, and it doesn't benefit you at all. There is no value in it for you when it comes to God to have a proudful look. It's a matter of being a blessing to others and realize the humble circumstances that you've come from. And it's the same thing with us in church. A lot of times we categorize folks. They come in, somebody's got an earring on, maybe a few tattoos, and all of a sudden, you know, boy, am I glad I'm not like that guy. I'm glad I don't have that problem, you know. Boy, I tell you what, all of us are just a hair. Just a hair. We have no idea what we're capable of. What we're capable of. It's amazing. I was telling the pastor this afternoon, boy, I tell you what, we're just a half step from being like the rest of the world. All you have to do is get close enough to the fire, then all of a sudden it consumes you, see? And you know that pride there, that'll get you right in the ripe place where the king of pride, the devil, will be right there to snatch you up. Pride goeth before a fall, and a haughty spirit before destruction. How about it here tonight? When we look at ourselves, do we see ourselves as God sees us? Do we see ourselves as, you know, fortunate that we have a wonderful church to be in, a pastor who loves the Word of God, who is willing to pray with us and to teach us? Oh, I tell you what, are we self-sufficient? We have the answers. There's a difference, just like the character of these two men. Let's bow for prayer.